stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The rules of procedure adopted annually to ensure a productive meeting. The select board meetings are in the public, not of the public, meaning that the members of the public in attendance are entitled to the opportunity to comment, but the purpose of the meeting is for the board to be able to effectively and efficiently conduct the necessary business to govern the town. All questions and comments are to be directed to the chair, and the rules of procedure indicate that there will be 2 minutes allotted for comment from any single person on any single topic. The rules of procedure are posted on the town hall and available for anyone to review. Thank you.
So, welcome everyone. We have members in attendance. We have Bob Jones, Mike Beecher, Jessica Van Ort, Harry Brown, Rich Hewlett, and I'm the assistant, Kristen Powers. Full house tonight. Hottest place to be in town, I think. So everybody, I think, signed in. That's what I was doing, just gathering everybody's names. When you speak tonight again, just make sure that you address the chair. We do have a very, very full agenda tonight, so just please be mindful of time allotments. And if you get respectfully asked to keep it swift, it's just in an effort to keep to the time. So thank you ahead of time for that. For additions or deletions of agenda items, yesterday there was another updated agenda that was sent out. The only thing that didn't make it on is that we do have an executive session this evening to discuss confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body. I'm not sure what time that's at. Usually that happens around 8.
It's not a Zoom.
Oh, it's not a Zoom.
It's not a Zoom.
Perfect. So that's happening at the end of the meeting.
We're going to read the letter she wrote us
Okay.
and discuss it.
Great. Any other additions or deletions?
I have a couple things in old business. The sidewalk grant, we have an update on that in old business. We also have an update on the Phase 2 environmental study at the Old Dutchies site, which we haven't talked about in over a year, but it's still old business. And then in new business, we need to authorize the renewal application for village center designations. Those should all be fairly short.
Okay. And the minutes that need approval from our last meeting were January 9th.
I move we approve those minutes from January 9th.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Donald Campbell.
All right, before Don gets started here, I just want to remind everyone what this is about. I think it was about a month or 6 weeks ago that I brought to the select board the idea that we might put an article on the warning about the Mettowee Park. And the article would read thusly, and I had handed this out to the rest of the select board members. We didn't make a decision at the time. It would read, should the town of Pawlet Select Board be empowered to enter into a mutually acceptable joint management agreement with the town of Rupert for the long-term care, maintenance, financial responsibility, and governance of the Mettowee Community Park? Yes, no. And there had been some questions at the time about what had happened in the past with the money that we've appropriated to the Mettowee Community Park. So Donald from Vermont Land Trust is here to talk to us about that.
Okay.
Hi.
Go ahead, please. Thank you for coming tonight.
Well, thanks, and I can make it as long or as short as you want, but this is really not an ask of anything in particular. It's more an opportunity. If Pawlet wants it, great. If not, no problem. But this park was created in 1984 to serve Pawlet, Dorset, and Rupert, so it specifically was chartered for that. And many years ago, it stopped meeting requirements for insurance and payment of taxes and things like that, so arguably was in default of the lease, and so the lease is pretty much defunct. And at this point, to protect the farmers from personal liability lawsuits, we need to either have it become under a municipal wing and covered by municipal efforts, or else we need to let it go back into farmland. And either is fine, depending on the community, what the communities want to do. And I think the issue is that it's in Rupert, And so there's a little bit of a sequencing problem, but the thought is to try to let Rupert kind of have dibs on it a little bit, you know, to say whether or not they want to manage it as a park. But the spirit of it was that Rupert, Dorset, and Pawlet would all work together on it. So I think that was the genesis of that language, is just to try to find out if the population wants to be part of directing its future. And if not, that's fine. So it could be just Rupert, it could be just Pawlet, it could be just Dorset, it could be some combination of the three, whichever communities vote to take responsibility for it. But it has to have it has to have some management. It has to have somebody who's going to make sure that the farmers that own the underlying land are not going to be personally liable for dog bites or baseball bat hits or, you know, whatever happens on that piece of land. So, question about what happened to funds in the past. The nonprofit, it didn't die exactly, but it sort of has petered out to the point that it really can't be said to be in existence anymore. But the funds that were allocated were 100% used for mowing and maintaining that park. So I was able to confirm that with Ken Leach, who's the last remaining sort of board member of that effort. I didn't realize that Roger Leach was the person who signed the lease in the very first place back in 1984, so we kind of come full circle in a sense. But I think we're at a point now where we really just have to kind of make a decision, and I'd love to know, whatever the community wants to do is fine. And Vermont Land Trust is agnostic about this. It's really what the communities want. If you want more park space, you know, we will absolutely extend the lease as long as the communities want it extended. If you don't want to take on the financial responsibility and don't care about the park space, and the other towns feel the same way, then we just take up the fence, and there's enough money to take up the fence and plow up the driveway and make it back into the good cornland that it once was. So, is that, Jessica, is that about the way you remember us talking about it when we met in person?
Yeah, I think that's how I remember us talking about it.
Okay. So, the only one last piece I should say is that 2 years ago we realized the farmers were at risk. So this is Tim and Dot Leach and Ken and Joanne, Ken Leach and Joanne Chickering. And so we got a grant to cover liability insurance and some part of the mowing for the past 2 years. That money's just about gone, and that's why we really have to make a decision about next steps. That's
Frank?
executive summary.
And it's around those costs, essentially, and if that was brought underneath the Rupert umbrella, then their town policy would probably be able to do that the cheapest with their League of Cities and Towns coverage, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I don't know, to be honest with you. That's
Because they got a
guess.
big group insurance, they're getting
Yeah.
reduced rates because it's everybody in the state.
I would definitely think that they would want to have it under their municipal wing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's certainly going to be a lot less expensive than the policy we've bought right now
Yes.
for the farmers, which is very expensive and not sustainable.
So we need to vote on it tonight.
I have some maps. I have a copy of the old lease. You probably don't need any of this stuff. You all know where it is. But if there's anything else I can help you figure out with this, that language that Jessica read was just a suggestion from me. And no, we're not wedded to that. It's just some way of gauging your residents to find out whether or not it's anything of value to them and whether or not it's something that they want to participate in. So, Paul could decline to have any involvement, and then you might not have any costs involved in it, but you might not have any role in dictating its future either. So, I'll tell you this, if only Dorset is in charge, it'll be a dog park, because that's what they want to see there. But it was originally set up, in the original lease, it was set up so that the leasee can erect structures, build basketball courts, tennis courts, baseball fields, and other facilities thereon in order to provide recreational, educational services to the youth of Dorset, Rupert, and Pawlet. So, big canvas if you want it.
So this statement that we're talking about that's on the ballot, would not really hold us financially.
It would
Liable at this
be,
point?
this would be, would the select board be empowered to enter into a mutually acceptable joint management agreement? So I would think that if we were then if the select board was unable to come to a mutually acceptable joint management agreement, then we wouldn't necessarily have to do it.
Yeah, that's the
That was the
way,
wording.
yeah, meant to write it that way, so that you'd all have to agree on something.
Town gives us permission, if we don't feel it's a good deal, we can still say no.
That's right.
Okay,
But if the town thinks, no, we don't want to do it, then we just sort of,
then it's all over.
We just need to know who the deciders are.
Yeah.
You know, we need to know who wants to be part of it. And I think if the town empowers you, and maybe, I think almost certainly Dorset will be at the table, and I don't know about Rupert, but if you all three of you want to work together, the conversation we had with Jessica and Rob Giotti and who else was there? I don't know, Charlie Rockwell and a bunch of other people were, how could we work together to make this a space that serves all three communities and share the costs, but also share the benefits.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Is this going to be on the ballot on all three towns, or have they already decided as far?
They have said they're going to put it on the ballot. Things have been a little quiet in Rupert, so I need to go.
Well, they have their own park now over there, so.
Yeah, they are oriented a little bit more to the west, so I don't know what their interest is going to be over on the Route 30 corridor. I think that has to be tested with the voters. We know that we had a little kerfuffle, I guess, about a year ago when somebody in Dorset put on a web page that it was a dog park. And that was never meant to be, a dog park, but, and so we actually spoke to Rob at the town of Dorset, and he had that taken down. So it's still a blank slate. It doesn't have to be a dog park, it doesn't have to be a baseball field, it could be whatever people wanted it to be.
So right now, the board gets to vote whether or not we want to put this on the ballot even. Because it's on the ballot, correct? Right now, as the ballot's written, but we can strike it from the ballot before it goes to the printers.
when are we deciding on the ballot? Is that under town clerk?
Okay, so we don't,
There's some point tonight, I think.
okay.
It's actually not the ballot, it's the warrant.
It's the warning. Yeah, the warning needs to be finalized and
Okay.
signed tonight.
So then when we get to the warning, then
We'll decide on that.
We'll decide on this, okay.
Okay.
Well, if nobody has any more questions for you, Don, I guess you can leave. Thank you very much for coming down and explaining everything to us. We appreciate your
Thank you. Yeah,
presence tonight.
it's a good thing to put to the voters. See what people want to do, and we'll take it from there.
Go from there. Excellent.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Hope you don't mind if I don't stay. As fun as it is.
Is there any announcements tonight?
No.
Okay. Zoning administrators report.
Short-term rental ordinance has been sent for legal review. It might take a month or two before we hear anything back because it's gone to VLCT and they're very involved with everything going on in these town meetings right now. There is a planning commission, DRB meeting tomorrow for our variance in town. That's at 7 o'clock here. And the only other comment I want to make is a misconception that's floating around town about permitting and your taxes. And I just want you to know, if you put a structure on your property, permitted or unpermitted, you're taxed on it because permitting does not drive the tax scrolls. The assessor's office drives the tax scroll. So that when they go on your property and find a building that's not permitted, you're going to be taxed. And what happens is then they come back to me and say, do you have a permit or not? But I just wanted everybody to know that by generating a permit doesn't mean you're automatically going to get taxed because in many cases in that office, people come in and get a permit for a building they never built and it never goes on their taxes. So I just wanted clarification on that point. And that's all that I have.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Nancy? Planning Commission.
All right, Planning Commission. Let me give my report, and it's going to be a little long. The Planning Commission met on Monday, January 22 at 7:30 p.m. That's last night. We amended our agenda to begin with discussion of the bylaw repeal petition rather than continuing our work on the bylaw amendments, which is nearly complete. Around a dozen members of the public attended, which is many more than usual for a planning commission meeting. Jessica explained the process the repeal petition will need to go through per VLCT. And I will interrupt to explain that here. So this statement about what has happened and what is going to happen next is up there on the front table and has been sent out by the town clerk so that everyone in town will know what's happening. The town clerk has received a voter-backed petition to repeal the zoning bylaws. This petition is legally binding, and the town, including the Planning Commission and the Select Board, will take appropriate action. Unlike most voter petitions, however, petitions about zoning bylaws do not go on the town meeting ballot. The Vermont statutes, 24 VSA Chapter 117, specifically sections 4441 and 4442, govern how zoning bylaws are adopted, amended, and repealed, and we are required to follow that process. So here's what will happen next. The petition will be sent to the Planning Commission. That happened last night. The Planning Commission now has the petition. The Planning Commission will prepare a report on how the bylaw repeal conforms with the goals in the municipal plan. The Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on the bylaw repeal and will properly warn and publicize this hearing. After the public hearing, the Planning Commission will send the bylaw repeal to the Select Board, along with any recommendations it considers appropriate. The Select Board then will hold a public hearing on the bylaw repeal and will properly warn and publicize this hearing. After the public hearing, the Select Board will vote on the bylaw repeal. After the Select Board vote, if 5% of the town's voters file a petition challenging that vote, a special town meeting will be warned to vote on the issue by Australian ballot. If no petition is filed within 20 days, the Select Board's vote will stand. These are the same steps that are followed for any bylaw adoption, amendment, or repeal. Residents of Pawlet are encouraged to attend the public hearings that will be held in order to make their voices heard. And so I am pleased that a number of people attended the Planning Commission meeting last night, and I imagine that a few of you here tonight are also here with the bylaw repeal petition in mind. So let me continue with my report about what happened last night at the Planning Commission meeting. There was some question from a member of the commission as well as the public about whether the language of the petition refers to rolling back the 2021 bylaws to a previous version or repealing them entirely with nothing in their place. Jessica will ask VLCT for their opinion on this. Both Planning Commission members and members of the public brought up concerns about the consequences of repealing the zoning bylaws. These concerns included, I've got a little list of them here. I hope I got them correct. A few of them I tried to indicate as best I could. If the zoning bylaws are repealed, Pawlet will revert to being a 1-acre town instead of a 10-acre town under Act 250, which means that landowners whose lots are between 1 and 10 acres will need to go through Act 250 if they want to develop their land, which is much more expensive and time-consuming than local zoning. 2, the town will no longer get 17.5% of disaster damages paid for by FEMA, or it might have been the state. Bob Morlino said this one, and I hope I got it correct, which would mean we would have to pay that with tax dollars in the event of a disaster like Hurricane Irene. 3, landowners will no longer be eligible for federal flood insurance due to the lack of zoning protections for river corridors, which will lead those who live in flood zones and carry mortgages to lose their mortgages. 4, there will be no height restriction on buildings, which will lead to a fire hazard as neither local fire department has a ladder truck. 5, neighbors will be allowed to build right up to each other's lot lines or build a bar next to a school. 6, there may be other federal and state grants or funds that require a town to have zoning bylaws, which we would miss out on. Jessica will work with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission to determine the full extent of the consequences. So those are all things that were brought up by either members of the public or the commission last night. Several members of the public expressed that one of the reasons they purchased property in Pawlet rather than nearby towns that do not have zoning is that they could be assured that their property values would be protected and that the surrounding area would not be developed in a way that significantly changed its character. The overwhelming response from the community members who attended last night was that repealing the zoning bylaws with nothing to replace them would be a disaster for the town. The Planning Commission hopes that those who are in favor of the petition will also attend future meetings and the public hearing, which will be scheduled later this spring, to make their concerns about the bylaws known. Since we're working on a bylaw update at this very moment, which loosens up many of the setback, lot coverage, parking, and other requirements, now would be an excellent time to address people's specific concerns about provisions of the bylaws. At the next meeting, the Planning Commission will attempt to finish up our bylaw update with the goal of moving forward immediately after that with public hearings for both the update and the repeal petition. All right, that's my report.
Anybody have any questions on Jessica's report? Nancy?
Yeah, I have a comment that I'd like to read that was provided by John Weiss, who was at last night's planning commission meeting. He couldn't be here tonight because he's at the fire department activities, but he said, I signed the petition under the mistaken belief that this was part of the normal process of authorizing a new version of the bylaws, and was given misleading information supporting this mistaken view. Being a trusting person, I signed the petition and now feel like the fool. I suspect that many other signers believe that this petition was intended to have some effect other than the total repeal of all zoning in our community, because the plain language of the petition says no such thing. In my time in this community, I've never seen a ballot petition that is intended to circumvent our community's normal process of making regulations. Our duly elected select board members have worked hard to adopt sensible zoning regulations over the 50 years, and have appointed a planning commission members who have worked hard to draft these rules. I support this work, and I support the people who volunteer to do it. I encourage anyone who signed this petition thinking it was intended to have some effect besides the total repeal of the zoning regulations in our community to ask the town clerk to remove their name from the petition. Signed, John Weiss.
Thank you. Go ahead, Michelle.
So, just so it's clear in my mind, so if we don't have the bylaws, we no longer can come to the town and we have a problem. We have to go to the state. Act 250.
Right.
We all know how much time and bull and money that we're going to have to shell out going through them. If you've ever tried to go through the state, you know how difficult that can be. So, and then the people that have mortgages that are in a flood zone will lose their mortgages because you can't get a mortgage without flood insurance. We'll lose a lot of our funding for emergency, a lot of our funding, state funding for other things, which is an awful lot of a burden to the taxpayer. Our property values will most likely decline because you could have a manure pile right next to your swimming pool, right next to your border. You could have a mud racing track in your backyard. You could have a 5-story building put up that obstructs your beautiful sunset now. You could have a trailer park put in your neighbor's yard with a bunch of trailers. So I think last night it was mentioned that it would make us into a third world town. And I think people need to realize what they might get, not just what they might lose, but what they might get if they don't have bylaws. So people need to be aware of that. They need to be educated. And I think a lot of people on that petition were not educated as to what was really going to happen. That's it.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Bob.
And just a point of clarification, without bylaws, we would lose 17.5% of any emergency relief assistance for a disaster, and that's state money.
Okay, so it's not FEMA, it was state money.
State money, yeah.
All right, thanks for the edit. I got that bit wrong.
Would we still be able to apply for all the grants and stuff?
Some grants we would not be able to.
Okay.
Because some grants require some stipulations that are in our bylaws. Other grants, yes, other grants we would be, depending on the grant.
We would lose out on opportunities for grants also without bylaws.
Yeah, yes, we would definitely.
Okay.
There's some grants that we would lose out on. We wouldn't be able to apply for it.
Okay. Deb?
I just want to go back to Nancy's statement. I do no longer have a petition in my possession. So if anyone felt inclined to make a change to whether or not they signed it, they would need to go through Jessica.
The Planning Commission is in possession of the of the petition at this time, yes.
Marty?
I've been dealing with zoning boards and planning boards for my entire career, which is very long. And I know that a lot of people get frustrated dealing with these boards, but I've always felt that they're necessary, whether it's a good bad or a board bad, or a bad board. It's always more advantageous to the community to have zoning and to keep it close, not at the state level or a county level, but keep it as close to home as possible where you can control it. And everything that was said before about the impact on community, if you take away zoning, is absolutely right. And most of all, it's going to have a tremendous negative effect on property values to get rid of zoning. So I would just say that, you know, even though I was asked personally to sign that petition, I explained that I couldn't because everything in my own professional experience says a zoning board is critical to a town. It's what controls how the town maintains its own character. Once you get rid of the zoning board, let's call it today, could be anything tomorrow without control. And that's why I think, you know, it is important to maintain zoning.
Thank you. Frank?
Speaking on behalf of the Planning Commission, we're working on the amendment, the new amendment, so that dated repeal of that one was on its way out anyways. Which would be, if the new amendment is adopted, it would be, the other one would be repealed or pulled back. And if anybody wants to, that's the process has gone by the Planning Commission and a public hearing with the Planning Commission, and is currently in the Select Board's hands, and the Select Board will be having a hearing on that, public hearing on that, when?
The town plan public hearing is a week from tonight.
So if anybody has any issues about it, come to that public hearing.
That's for the town plan, not the bylaws, though, I'm just clarifying. So,
Right, but,
yeah.
but that affects the,
It does.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. Okay. Do you have anything else?
Oh, Harry.
Oh, Harry?
Do we know who the author of the petition was?
We do not know who the author of the petition was. Lynn Sheldon dropped it off with Deb, but she's not a town resident. So, yeah. I emailed her back with this statement, asking her to forward it to whoever had started the petition.
All set? Do you
Yep,
have
that's
anything else?
my report.
That's your report. All right, thank you.
Oh, Michelle has her hand up
Oh.
again.
Just offhand, how many signatures are on the petition? Ballpark?
There were 68 valid voter signatures. There were, I believe, 10 that were not voters, and a couple were illegible, so that Deb was not able to check them. But yes. And one removed.
All right. Road foreman's report.
Right, so Rick Lawrence provided me with a report today. So the highway department has been cleaning up debris following the recent wind and snowstorms. The main focus that Rick asked that I bring here to the board tonight was that there are quite a bit of trees that are beyond their scope that need to be addressed and removed, that are probably at some point going to cause some, they will disturb the roadways. So what the department is doing now is going around and marking those trees, and then the town is going to have to come up with a plan to get them removed by some professional tree workers. He also suggests that maybe we even go so far as to work with loggers, because there might be enough that and big trees to be able to remove them that way. So they're working on that, but something to keep on our radar is that we're gonna have to come up with a plan for tree removal. They also continue to respond to and prepare for winter maintenance, both on the roads and through the equipment. The loaner truck is here, and we've got the lease agreement, the loaning agreement, but we have to get that back to the insurance company. And that's about it. Otherwise, all is well. They're just trudging along with keeping up with winter.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for the road? And under that, we have a planning coordinator role.
Oh, yes. So that was continued from last time. So Colby, who's a member of the highway department, had submitted an email to everybody that you all received at the last meeting, and it was an idea to come up with a position in town called a planning coordinator. And the idea of this position, just to summarize it, would be an additional person. Ideally, his idea was a full-time person, but somebody else in town who could be able to help with just general project planning and grant writing and additional administrative tasks. Based on some of the conversations that the board has already had, and I've relayed this back to Colby, it seems like it aligns with ideas that we've already had as a group. But it was for continued conversation since it really didn't get discussed at the last meeting.
I admit I haven't really had a chance to thoroughly read through it, but I agree with you that it's in line with the sort of part-time town administrator or, grant coordinator or something that we've been thinking about possibly needing.
Yeah.
That's what I felt when I read through it too, that it's bringing to light a lot of issues that we could do better
Yeah.
with, and I think that would be, I think our direction, we've allotted in the new budget for some money in that, for a job that we called what did we call it?
I think we called it grant coordinator,
Grant
but
coordinator.
we can change
But we don't,
the language on it.
we had to come up with a name, but it's really someone that's
Help
the
to propel
job
us
description is gonna have to work
Yeah.
as we see what our most important needs are at the time, but
Yes.
it allows us to have another person in here to do some stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So I let him know that ultimately at this point in time, and I hopefully summarized this well for him, but at this point, it's going on the ballot to determine whether or not the voters have an appetite for funding another position to be able to help with those sorts of tasks. And then once we figure that out, we'll be able to get to work with putting a description together, and we'll take all those thoughts in mind, or take those into consideration, keep them in mind.
Frank?
At one point in time, I think within the last few years, Rutland Regional was conceptually coming up with a position potentially there which would assist towns with such activities, because there's a lot of towns around in the same boat, and they may be able to consolidate things in one place with a position there, which would be a full-time paid position.
Yeah, as we get closer with a job description, that's certainly something we'll consider, Frank. Thank you. New town garage. Oh, Deb?
Kristen, you mentioned, is this incorporated into the highway budget? You said
It's not in the highway budget. It's a personnel.
Yeah, it's a line.
It's a line
item on
It's a
what?
separate line item that we work with Julie on.
Okay, but it's built
It's within the budgets that are already packaged up.
Because when you said on the ballot, I'm like, okay.
Not on the ballot, so sorry.
Within the budget.
Wrong language.
Yeah.
It's in
just
the
a line
budget.
item on the
Budgets.
budget, yeah.
Not specifically just for highway tasks either.
We didn't mean to scare you.
Don't get it twisted.
Okay. So also new town garage.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Since we've been very fortunate to receive a couple of large donations toward a new town garage, it's really got us in gear of starting to come up with a plan, and Rich has been doing some thinking on this, if you want to enlighten us a little.
So I guess what we've got to decide is there is some interest in a committee, putting a committee together. I think we've got to decide the size of the committee, and I guess just how we're going to put folks on that committee. There is 3 folks that I have talked to that I think would do a great job that are interested so far, as well as I know Colby and Nate, they're also interested, and I don't know if in a case like that if they can just be maybe advisors to the committee potentially,
Right.
with just different ideas. That's what we've got to put together. And then the committee can, I mean, they can throw a bunch of pros and cons back at us, location, size of the building, just different configurations, those sorts of things.
To
and
gather a lot of information for us.
pricing and just see what we're up against. So, yeah, we have to just decide, how many people we want on that committee and move forward with it.
Okay.
I think the smaller the better.
You get
I think- Yeah, I do.
a few people tend to work better. The bigger the committee, you get just a lot of churning quite often. I feel the same way.
Yeah, so I don't know if we want to put somebody on the board in charge of putting that committee together, or what the next step should be, but
Sounds like we already have somebody.
Well, we nominate you to put this together, Rich.
And basically, the committee would be an advisory to us, to
us,
the board.
Yeah.
Right.
And, I mean, they could have some advisors too, like if the town crew wants to, advise them.
Right.
They could meet with the town crew and go over some different ideas and those sorts of things. So, yeah, no, I'd be up for that.
Okay, that would be great, and you can let us know as it progresses and keep us going, see where you're headed with that, so,
Sounds good.
thank you.
Was that a motion, or does that not need to, I mean, it was,
I-
they both
Yeah,
eagerly.
I think it's a consensus,
Okay.
so, okay. Is there anything else for the road foreman's report? Okay.
Not that I have, no.
Assessor's report. Lisa Wright. Good evening, Lisa.
Everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you well, thank you.
I'm sorry I couldn't make it tonight. I've been a little under the weather today. I have a report on our reappraisal request for bid that we sent out. And in response to that, you have a memo kind of summarizing this in case we have any technical glitches and I lose you. Perhaps someone else can share that, but I'll try to just summarize that. So we had 2 bids in response to our RFP, one from Tyler Technologies, and the other was from David Buckley's firm out of Bennington. We opened both bids last Wednesday, and I have reviewed them. Buckley's proposal was not a complete proposal, and that he did not answer all of the requests in our RFP, but offered to meet with the town and prepare a more complete proposal. I can't recommend this bid right out of the box because we were quite clear that this was a request for proposal and not a request for a letter of interest. So that leaves us with the bid from Tyler Technologies, which was quite comprehensive and answers all of our requests in the RFP, including a detailed scope of work and details about public relations and other communications and timelines through which the project will be accomplished. Has the select board seen, the bidders were asked to provide 7 copies of those, and this would be your first viewing of it. Were those handed out to you?
Unless it's in my mailbox.
No.
Not that I saw.
I think they're still in the assessor's office. I apologize.
Can you?
Do you want us to go in and look? Debbie said she could go in.
Would you? They're right on the assessor's desk, and I apologize. I thought they would have made it out there. And I know this is going to be your first look at it. You may want some time to digest it, but I will summarize. Well, I'll continue to summarize if that's okay. I know we have a lot on the agenda tonight. So this bid of $89,800 is very fair given the current cost for reappraisals. And I believe we have achieved some economies of scale by combining our efforts with other towns. This price equates to 111 per parcel, given our total taxable parcels of 811 taxable and an additional 21 non-taxable parcels. Just for background for members of the public there, we sent out this RFP in cooperation with the town of Proctor and with Chittenden as well. Chittenden will be sending out their RFP tomorrow. Proctor last night accepted Tyler's proposal and is beginning work on a contract. Before I go any further, I'd like to introduce the board to John Vickery of Tyler Technologies, who is attending in person tonight, and give him a chance to introduce himself, and he can answer specific questions about your company, and we'll go from there, if that works for the board.
That would be great. Good evening.
Would you like me to stand or?
You're fine right there.
Hi, I'm John Vickery. I work for Tyler Technologies as the project supervisor for this project, and we have other contracts in Vermont as well as all over the United States. But we have a crew that we're building here in Vermont, and in fact we just were granted to do Proctor, and we already have a contract going with Castleton, Vermont right now. We're hoping that we will be successful in getting other communities around the Rutland area. I live up in Bridport, which is just outside of Middlebury. At least that's what I have to tell everybody. And then we have a few other contracts in Vermont as well. St. Albans City and Hartford, Vermont as well. We're excited. We want to do this project. This project is a year out. We put our bid a little bit lower than norm because we really wanted to get some momentum in Vermont and have a number of communities that will do. I hope that you give the blessing and approve of this reappraisal. I'm here for any questions, and even I'll stick around after the meeting if you'd like as well.
Anybody have any questions?
Well, my question, I guess we haven't been able to see the document yet that you prepared, unfortunately, but what is the time frame? You said it's a year out. Would it be in 2025 that this would be happening?
Yes, we will start in earnest the next fiscal year. Lisa and I will probably work together and do some prep work, but then we will bring a crew in here and we will do our door knocking and our internal market analysis and so forth. I believe it's for April 1st, 2026.
That is correct.
That's correct.
Yes,
Right.
and it's typical that towns, even small towns like Pawlet, take a full year, a year and a half to 2 years sometimes to do a reappraisal. And we are also planning a conversion to the Patriot software. So that additional year ahead will assist us to do that conversion ahead of time. It's quite a project in and of itself to do a software conversion. So to do that first at Tyler John's recommendation, I think is just good business sense to spread the work out a little bit. As you all know, I work for a number of towns, and there's only so many hours a month I can give Pawlet. So to do this over a couple of years, I'll be able to, if the board chooses to keep me on board, I'll be there to oversee that, to hold grievances, to be involved with the process so that we can maintain consistent assessments after the reappraisal as well. In conclusion with my presentation, I recommend that the board accept this bid. If we were to put this off and go out to bid to consider other options, you will probably only get options for 2028 and beyond for an effective date of a reappraisal. And as you know, the town of Pawlet is of my towns, the one that's been under order the longest. This is our second year being under order. So our numbers are, to wait is just going to make the CLA issue and that driving your tax rate higher continue to be a problem. Now that said, if you approve the bid tonight with Tyler, it's not that does not represent a contract. The work would then begin to create a contract that both sides were happy with to actually do the work, and that of course has to be approved by the board.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for John right now?
There's a lot of material there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just flipping forward to the schedule and the
Yep.
executive summary.
So if there's a detailed schedule that you can pay attention to, as well as how we go about doing the reappraisal, and just the bid price, and that we are compliant with everything that's been asked for. So we will do exactly what we're told. And I will be here, and I'll meet in front of this board multiple times during the project, hopefully, giving updates and so forth.
And it looks like by the scope that your company will be around through the potential grievance processes after the.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Afterwards,
Yep.
so when the BCA has to meet, you'll be able to attend and.
I can attend, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, we definitely are there for the first part as well. And we will be there all the way through. If anything goes to court, we have the expertise on that as well.
So the people that will be going to the individual houses, do they work for you, or do you hire subcontractors, or everybody?
They'll be Tyler employees.
They'll be Tyler employees, okay.
Well, since our assessor recommends this proposal, and it is a complete proposal and gets it done within the time frame that we need to get it done, I think we should go with it.
I'd second that.
Okay, is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, John. We'll
Thank you.
go to the next step now. We'll prepare a contract and we'll go forward. Thank you for working on this, Lisa, and pulling this all together for us.
Well, thank you. We will be working on the contract very soon, and we'll be back to see you within the next couple of meetings. John, did we talk about a time frame of maybe having a draft contract for their next meeting? First one in February,
2 weeks.
perhaps.
We could have a draft in 2 weeks. We could certainly do that. That would be wonderful.
Give us something to be talking more about it, if that works for the board.
If that 2 weeks works, I mean, if it ends up being a little bit, if you can't pull it off, I mean, a month isn't really going to change
Right.
much, so.
Right.
So if you could pull it off, that would be great. If we have to push it out to 2 meetings, I don't see where that would be any harm. Do you, Lisa?
No, I don't think so, but I wouldn't want it to go longer than that. We want to get this thing moving along.
Right.
Yep, excellent.
If I'm happy to stick around till the end of the meeting, if anyone wants to chat afterwards, or if you don't.
Anybody have any questions? You could probably, the meetings, I think we got quite a lot more meeting left ahead of us, so you could get a good run to Bridgeport. So. Thank you very much for coming down, joining us tonight. Have a great ride back.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else to share with us tonight, Lisa, or you're all set?
I don't think I do. We recently got our equalization study, and it's, more of the same of the CLA declining and the COD increasing. So the situation remains to be corrected with the reappraisal, but we're taking steps on that, and I will check in with the state of Vermont, who has issued us that order, and let them know where we are in the process of getting it done.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Have a good evening.
You too, thanks.
Where did that go? I didn't look at it.
The paper with the CLA and stuff on
The
it.
CLA there.
That one? That one right there.
This one?
This, you want this?
This one?
The one from
Yeah.
the state that said, okay.
Yep.
I gave it to you before I even read it. So. Okay. All right. Town clerk's memo.
Bob's already signed the excess weight permit. Just a reminder that nominating petitions and consent of candidate forms are due by Monday. There is one notice from A&R. There's a letter for you, Mike, that I left at your spot. And then to the warning. One thing that I wanted to ask, are we doing this hybrid? I can stand. Are we doing it hybrid like we did last year with the Zoom link? I have 2 warnings prepared, one with and one without.
I know it's more work for Kristen and everyone, but we have gotten good attendance through Zoom, and I think it's more accessible for some people.
It does. To me, I feel that it's important to add that to our town meeting. It certainly does increase the attendance.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
But it's your meeting, so you get to decide.
I love Zoom.
So, Kristen, would you be able to facilitate that third?
Yes. Yeah.
So the 2 articles that are select board driven are Article 5 and Article 9. Are you keeping them on the warning?
Article 5 was the one, should the town vote to change the purpose and name of the capital budget fund from maintaining town-owned buildings to the capital projects fund for the building and maintenance of town-owned infrastructure.
Right.
Yeah, that's the one that Julie wanted, and that's going to help us build the garage.
Right.
Okay, the Article 9 is the one you spoke about with the
About to put the idea of the Mettowee Community Park to the voters.
Right.
I don't see any harm in putting it to the voters.
No, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
We can put it to the voters, and then if it looks like it's financially going to be a burden, then we can choose to opt out. So I think it makes sense to get the voter feedback on it too. So are we all in favor of having that? Okay.
All
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's going to stay on then too.
Okay.
Thank
and
you.
then the three, I had Julie look over the warning today to make sure that all of the budget figures and the capital budget fund and the all of the funds that you guys asked for, the wastewater, and that's all in there that agrees with what she presented to me. Okay, so you ready to sign?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We have to have a motion, right?
Do we need a motion to sign it? We might as well have it. I'll move
Right.
that we sign it.
I have a quick question.
Sue?
So this is about the budget, or is this about the
warning.
the warning? Okay, never mind.
Okay. Do we need a motion to sign to do the warning, to accept the warning? Right? Or do we just,
Can't hurt.
Doesn't hurt.
okay.
We're just always having motions
Yeah.
for
We always
stuff.
have.
Why
I'll
not?
make a motion to accept those warnings.
Okay.
All right, I'll second it.
With the hybrid.
Yes.
Well, I don't know about that.
Thanks.
We'll have Kristen sign as well.
I'll sign. I'll prick my finger.
I'm gonna
I'll
rip the
do
one
Zoom.
that's not the hybrid.
So we made a motion and
Yes.
somebody seconded it?
Yeah, I
Yes.
seconded.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, excellent. And we want to use the school, so I can sign this?
Yes,
Okay.
I've already sent the reservation request for it, and that was just the page that needed to be signed.
Do I sign it both places?
I would.
Okay.
Is that a rental agreement for the school?
Yes,
Okay.
the facilities.
Oh, Julie's got her hand up.
Hello. I just found out actually tonight in reading some of my school board stuff that there actually is pending legislation that's being worked on this session that would mandate boards have all of their meetings be hybrid. So I would recommend that you guys look at that. And then we can, you might want to weigh in on it, depending on how it goes. But I think we're going to be keeping track of it as a school board, and if you like, I can keep you guys in the loop on that front as well.
That would be great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deb.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, that could, here's your Mettowee.
Oh.
Thanks for pulling this all together again.
Yeah, it's been a busy few days. I'm all set.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, everybody.
Let me up today. Okay, so I guess it's Julie's turn.
Hello. I was gone for so long.
Right.
Two warrants, payroll is $11,140.59. Accounts payable $30,272.43. General fund monies is $12,020.77. Highway is $21,248.26. Wastewater monies is $8,143.99. We did receive the mini grant for the whatever they are.
Oh, infrared cameras?
It's $4,000.
Yes.
We got that this month. And then I've been busy with end of calendar year tax payments coming in, and I am so excited to announce that I've already had several online credit card and e-check payments. So I'm happy, and I think that people are going to be glad to have an alternative payment method. And that's it.
Yes.
Motion for the warrants?
I'll make a motion to accept payroll warrant 24037 and warrant 24038.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
So the townspeople can pay Julie now with credit cards?
Yes.
Wow.
Or e-check.
That is correct. There is a fee associated. You can do a credit card or an e-check, which is it's just an ACH payment right out of your checking account. The e-check is $1.50 fee flat for regardless of what the price, and then the credit card is a percentage. It's all spelled out when you go on, the link is on our website, and when you go on the link, all of the details about what the costs are going to be are spelled out for you. And the last I knew, they were working on updating their system so that you would even be able to schedule payments out. So I don't know if they're there yet, but that would be great. So when you get your bill in August, you can schedule your September and February payments at the same time.
Never forget a tax.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Pay your
Super.
taxes and get some airline miles.
Once it keeps it rolling in. Anybody have any other questions for Julie?
Money left anymore.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julie.
You might get on a plane, but you won't be able to get on.
You bet.
Emergency management, anything from Bob? I guess not.
This meeting.
Jennifer, you're gonna update us on the new rental housing codes?
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay, yes, this will be quick. Anyway, so as you know, the state is taking over inspecting rental properties. as of January 1st. I sent you all that information, and they were also supposed to notify or send information to select boards and to town clerks and stuff. I don't know if they've done that, but anyway, you should have what you need to know. Complaints are usually by tenants. They now go directly to Division of Fire Safety via a new website that was set up just for that purpose. I've updated Deb with all that information, the links and stuff, and let her know that I'm available to assist for people who are unable to file online or who don't have internet access. The form can also be downloaded and printed. In case of emergencies, which per the Department of Fire Safety include things like possible propane or natural gas leaks, busted water pipes, arcing electrical lines, the tenant should call 911 and local fire departments can respond. Per DFS, lack of heat is not considered a 911 emergency. I thought that was interesting. The DFS may ask the town health officer to make initial contact for things like validating the complaint and assessing its severity, but we will no longer perform the full inspections, or we will not complete reports. DFS will post a notice at the property if violations were found. As far as short-term rentals, those inspections are complaint-driven. They will not proactively inspect short-term rentals townwide, and I've shared all that information with Nancy. So I will still cover public health hazards such as dog bites, failed septic systems, etc. And Bob and I, we only have one inspection, rental inspection that we started months and months ago that was put on hold for an eviction and a renovation. And per DFS, if we started it, they want us to finish it. So we will finish that one when the time comes. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So does anybody have any questions?
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that
You're welcome.
information. Have a good night, Jennifer.
Thank you, you too.
Okay. Wastewater treatment facility. There was just a report.
I'm not sure about a report.
The biggest thing is anybody knows anybody that would be interested in, it's like between 1 and 2 hours a day to go to the wastewater treatment facility and do the checks. Right now, unfortunately, the guy that we had this summer passed away, surprisingly, and then the guy that's doing it right now is going to be out of commission at the end of the month. So the only options that Jill has is to come down from where she lives in Bristol. So the job is you check the pump stations, and there's some other basic stuff. It's not a super strenuous job. It just requires that somebody that could come in and look it over, and if you're at all interested, it would be a huge benefit to the town. You can get Jill's number. She's got, I think she has it posted on the side of the wastewater treatment facility, or I can get it, or the website, right? Deb has tried to get it out there as much as possible. So if anybody knows of anybody, we can pass the word. It would be a huge benefit to the town by keeping an operator or close like this. She's able to maintain a better price structure for us. So, and other than that, everything seems to be running. Frank?
Is that 7 days a week, just 2 hours a day, 7 days a week?
It depends. She usually comes down 1 day a week to check stuff, but it's basically anytime, whatever. The last guy that was doing it, Mike, I think he took every day, and then he was doing another job for her. He was going to Ludlow or something and doing another facility for her too, but it's basically whatever, if you wanted to work 7 days a week, you could certainly have that, I'm sure, but she does come down and check on it physically, so. you'd have to talk to Jill about it. Her number's right on the door there, so.
I was telling somebody to
Right.
7 days a week, 5 days a week, 2 hours a day.
Right.
And what do you do if you want to take time off and all that stuff?
It's something that could be, what does this?
Want me to read this?
Yes, please do.
It says VTEMS operates, maintains, and repairs water and wastewater utilities for municipal and private customers across Vermont. We are currently looking for a part-time employee to work at the West Pawlet Wastewater Treatment Facility a few hours each day in the morning. This position accomplishes a variety of duties related to the daily operation of the wastewater collection and treatment system. Pay is commensurate with experience. A valid driver's license and good physical capabilities are needed to perform the duties of this job. VTEMS is an equal opportunity employer. Please reach out to VTEMS owner and chief operator of the West Pawlet Wastewater Treatment Facility, Jill, by calling, and then she has a phone number and she has an email. And this went out to my email groups, my town clerk Facebook page, and I sent it to Sean.
Great, thank you. And that's about it as far as what's going on down there. Everything seems to be running in order, as good as could be expected for that facility, so. Mettowee Valley School, do we have anything from that?
Facility.
We do.
Okay,
For the January report at the regular meeting on January 8th, the board approved the fiscal year 25 budget. It's a big number, $6,793,235, which is a 5.4% increase. We had a thoughtful discussion with Sue Wilburn, who's business manager for the BRSU, on possible impacts of pending legislative activity that may affect the current projections for tax rates. We will continue to monitor this and maintain a dialogue with local legislators to ensure that our voice is heard. We also finalized plans at that meeting for the February meeting, which will be held at the Mettowee Community School and will include students. We're having a activity with a group of students so that we can work on achieving student voice in public education. And we also finished our work on a survey that will be available in our annual report and also on the BRSU website. We are asking that everyone please respond to this survey, as the data that we will collect will be used for future revisions to our ENDS policies. And we look forward to engaging our community on the always important topic of public education. And that's it.
well, thank you very much, Julie. Any questions?
Okay.
No, we're all good. Older unfinished business, you got some stuff going on, right?
Yeah, all right, so we have here D&H Rail Trail Council. So, what needs to happen here is that we need to, the select board is asked to appoint a delegate to the D&H Rail Trail Council. I know I've brought it before the select board previously, and also an alternate. The Planning Commission discussed this last night, and Frank Nelson has volunteered to be the delegate to the rail trail, which I think is great because it would be great for someone from West Pawlet to be the delegate, and he's been attending the informal meetings up to this point. We didn't identify anybody who might be an alternate, so if there's anyone in town, especially someone who uses the rail trail, who would be interested in being an alternate to the newly formed Rail Trail Council, which is overseen by the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. They're going to meet probably about 4 times a year and just advise on issues involving the rail trails. So that's that.
Okay. Thank you, Frank.
So we should probably just have a motion to appoint Frank.
Okay.
I'll move that we appoint Frank Nelson as the Pawlet delegate to the D&H Rail Trail Council.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I want more money.
I'll let them know.
We'll double the pay.
Pass go.
Council. All right, I did have 2 other things here. in unfinished business. So I believe it was a year or more ago that we got that phase 1 environmental study done by Rutland Regional Planning Commission on the old Dutchies site, and this would be like the first step that if we were ever to redevelop that site in any way. And the phase 1 study involved them coming on the site and taking photographs and talking to people, but they didn't actually do soil samples. They found enough things there, like some piles of stuff, and it was near, because it was near the railway, they really wanted to do a phase 2 environmental study. And Rutland Regional Planning Commission now has money for that. So I've met with the new guy, Greg, I think his name is, at Rutland Regional Planning Commission, and the person who would be doing the study, and this is free to us. Rutland Regional will pay for it. They just need the approval of the select board to go ahead and do that.
Okay.
The only other thing that I was wondering regarding that property, because we were talking about it a couple weeks ago, is has that property ever been surveyed? Do we know?
Not by us.
Not by us.
And I really don't think there's any maps.
Yeah. Because I know there was some concern about whether the new foundation encroached on the neighbors.
Right.
But if it hasn't been surveyed, I can just tell them that.
Nancy?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't even think that property conforms to the setbacks. No. You're gonna construct on it, and since it was never completed construction, it's basically, it can't be grandfathered, is my point. So they put a foundation in, but a foundation doesn't count as a construction, from my understanding.
Have to be completed.
You have to, it would be, if it doesn't meet the setbacks, and it's in non-compliance, is my point. So I think perhaps at some point before you go down this road, you should go measure and see. I'm especially concerned with the road setback.
And what I'm thinking is any potential development on that lot might not be on that same footprint. It might be elsewhere on the lot. Or, we might just want to sell the lot off. We don't know what would happen. But it would have to be, if we got this done, it would be kind of it would be a bonus for whatever ends up happening with this lot. We would have the environmental data available.
The documents.
Yeah, we would have the documents available.
I thought we discussed that the town was gonna just keep that property.
Well, yeah, we really can't do anything until we know for sure what we have to do to make them more efficient. If we have to put sludge holding in, it's going to require taking up some of that property. And sludge holding tank would be a huge benefit to the operation of the treatment plant. So, Frank?
That existing foundation may not be exactly what the other foundation was. So by changing the dimensions of the building, it might have done away with any grandfathering. That's a question that needs to be answered.
Okay.
Well, I mean, even if we end up using it for sludge holding, would it hurt to have the environmental study done? It doesn't cost us anything.
Only if they find something bad.
Yeah.
That's the risk you take. If it finds something, then what do we do? So
probably nothing unless we have to sell the property.
Yeah, unless they make you dig it out. And Frank will sink down into the hole.
So do we want to go through the process of proving that that's all clean there, or?
I don't think it's necessary. I think if we knew what we wanted to do with it, then it would be worth taking that step. But until then, I don't think it's a step worth taking.
I feel strongly that property is always going to belong to the town because we need it for support for the sewage treatment
plant. It's right next to the sewer plant.
Right.
What about the other half of the property on the other side of that?
The biggest reason that we hold on to that property is because legally we don't have access to the sewer plant. Ray Ducat owns right up to the side of the sewer plant. So legally we don't have access. He's always allowed us access, but if something changed, we would not have access to to that building from that way. We were supposed to come up that road behind the old parking lot
Okay.
up through there. So that's the reason that has always been maintained.
All right, well, if we don't want to do it, I'll just let them know to pass that money on to somebody else.
I'm gonna agree with Rich. I think we let sleeping dog lie.
Okay. And my third thing then was we do need to make a decision now about the grant that we have for the sidewalks and crosswalks. I kind of previewed this a little while ago. We had denied the first proposal, which was for about 120K. So we've gone back and then we sent it to Fuss and O'Neill, hoping that they would come back a little closer to what they put in their proposal, which was around 70K. They came back well above double that. And so we went back and forth with them a little bit, and they were able to bring it down to 170K. So I'm assuming that the select board wants to reject this one and move on to the third one. At this point, it's pretty clear that what happened was that when Fuss and O'Neill did the grant, helped us do the grant proposal in the first place, they were not accurate about how much this was going to cost. The first proposal that we got for 120K seems much closer to what the going rate for this would be. So my hope is that the third person will come back a little closer to what the first person was, and we might just have to go with engineering for these sidewalks and crosswalks that is a little more expensive than we'd hoped. And then we have to, if that's the case, we'll have a couple options going forward. Once we've gotten the engineering done, we might have to scale back on the scope of what we build to fit within the grant money, or we might have to ask V-Trans for a little additional grant money.
So it's legal for us to say, all right, we can't get this done for this money, but we're gonna take it and just do a scaled back version?
We'd have to negotiate with V-Trans, but I feel like my thought is there are certain aspects of this project that we are very keen to have, which is the crosswalk across Highway 30. That would be so good. And also I think that the sidewalk that goes up to the church parking lot and the crosswalk there on 133 would be so helpful for pedestrians. In my mind, I don't care a whole lot about whether the sidewalks go across the bridge or not. And I think that we talked about that before. So if V-Trans would let us scale back a little bit, and I mean, we could always say, if you won't let us scale back a little bit, we may not be able to build anything with the grant, you know, so we're gonna have to negotiate with them, but that's my thought.
That's an option.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't see that seems
Yeah,
not doable.
I don't see that we're gonna get any reputable company to design these
Right.
for less than 100K.
Right.
So it seems like we were misled when we were applying for the grant, but they're not owning up to it.
Right.
So everyone, myself, Stephanie from Rutland Regional Planning Commission, and Peter Pochop from V-Trans are all frustrated with how this is going on. But so I suggest that we deny the Fuss and O'Neill proposal and we move on to the next person.
Yeah, definitely. Fuss and O'Neill. Are we all in?
We're having this meeting here, throwing our hands in the air, being like, how could they say? It was 2 years ago. It was in 2022. They wrote the proposal and said it will cost 70K, and then they come back and say it's going to cost 170. So anyhow, I would move that we reject the Fuss and O'Neill proposal.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right. That's it for my my old business.
Older. Okay. New business.
So, well, it's kind of old, kind of new, but
is it borrowed or blue?
It is blue because I'm blue in the face from asking about the fact that I need some more feedback for our annual select board report. Thank you to those.
That's you asking for that?
That's me, your friendly friend that does this. So we need to get these to Deb. I've gotten some really great ideas, but so it seems like every year it's like I have so much fun that I just can't remember everything that's happened. So anybody, if you guys have any sort of like highlights, fun memories, things that we did, and just send me some bullets, and then I'm gonna get it all to you by probably over the weekend, and then you can review it, and then we'll get it to Deb by the end of the month so that it can be printed. And it's our opportunity to talk about all the fun things we did this past year and what we might look forward to doing next year. So you've got a couple emails in your inboxes from me about it. So just, call me, write me, whatever you want to do. Thank you. That's all.
All right, thank you.
I think you need to pat your own back in this report for the work you did on hiring road crew.
Yeah.
I was reading one a couple of years ago, and somebody else on the board was like, and a special thanks to Kristen, and like I wrote it, and it just felt pretty funny to be like, Kristen is so wonderful, and I was like, so thanks. I was like, that feels odd. So I will not be writing that this year.
I have one thing under new business as well. I'm actually going to get around to doing this. We need to reapply for the village center designations for Pawlet and West Pawlet. These are very important because they let us get grants and things for our village centers. And I can write the cover letter and the brief narrative and submit everything, but we do need to have minutes from a publicly held meeting of the select board showing that the renewable application for village center designation has been authorized by the town or village. So we just need to, approve that we're going to.
A motion, yeah.
Yeah.
A motion made and seconded.
Exactly.
To approve
So-
the village centers.
Yep, so I'll move that we approve the renewal application for village center designation for Pawlet and West Pawlet.
Bob will second it. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye,
Opposed? Carried.
that was easy.
Great,
That's
thank
it
you.
for me.
Did you say motion made to approve the renewal application for village center designations for Pawlet and West Pawlet?
That's exactly what I said. You got it.
How did she do it?
And that's why we pat you on the back.
Kristen is so wonderful. Wait, who did? Oh, so Jessica.
Yeah, I made the motion, Bob
Bob
seconded.
seconded it.
Thanks.
Do you have any other new business? Okay. Public comment.
I have something.
Yes.
I just want to give a shout out to the road crew for the plowing and stuff. I think they've been doing a fabulous job this year. And I just want to put that out there. I think they deserve some recognition.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer.
That's nice.
Hi.
Hi,
I'm
Corey.
Corey Rail from West Pawlet. I sent you guys a letter with a lot of questions about the library board's actions. And I have two questions that are just tailored to the select board's sort of how it's affecting the select board, if that makes sense. The main question was that the library board presents hiring to the select board, and the select board votes on it to approve their proposal of hiring. And so I was wondering, they didn't do that for a firing. I was wondering, the disconnect with that, if you guys have talked about that at all. If you don't have an answer on the spot, that's okay, but that's the question I had.
I don't really have the answer to that.
Okay. And then the other question, and the next one was, does the town of Pawlet have indemnity insurance on the library board, or does the library board have that on? Is that their responsibility to have that?
That's a question I'm not sure of right now. I mean, the League of Cities and Towns covers policy, and they cover us for all types of things, but to be specific, I really can't say the answer to that at this point.
Okay. And because I sent out a letter that had a bunch of questions, and that was more for discussion and sort of just the idea that this brought up some governance issues, I think, like the idea that the library board is separate from the select board. However, the select board pays the salary of the library director, and the town of Pawlet pays that. So, you know, there's some kind of disconnect in that the town doesn't have say on these hiring issues.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
and that was brought up to us when we were getting briefed on this too, that and apparently it's not uncommon in the state either, but it's a difficult situation
Yeah.
that we're trying to navigate through.
Didn't we hear that basically the library does not have a separate entity under Vermont state, so it's part of the town. But then the town employment policies don't cover the library employees, so it is an odd setup.
And are you guys like looking into the League of Cities and Towns to get some guidance on how to sort of rectify that?
Well, at this point right now, we need to work through what we're dealing with, and then if we can learn something from this process, I think that we'll certainly take it into consideration and moving forward to make sure that everything is more clearly defined and understood better by all parties.
I mean, I think that it would make a good lot of sense to have a single employment handbook that covered all town employees, whether they work in the library or not. That would make sense to me. But yeah, we haven't really taken any steps yet in that direction.
Okay.
I think they make sense.
Any other public, Sue?
I just have a question. This is a library thing too, but I was looking at the December library minutes, and there's a sentence about discussing the library budget in January. Library budget was not discussed in the January meeting. So my question is, has the library presented a budget to the board?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And if so, this budget was never discussed in a public meeting at the library. And so when it hasn't been discussed here, which it normally wouldn't be. So I'm just saying that, and it wasn't voted on by the library board either at any point. So it's not very open. It's not open at all.
Okay.
So we won't see it until it's in the town report.
The town report, yeah.
Is that the right way to do it?
Frank's our expert on open meeting law.
Okay, Frank.
Well, it's online. You can go on to the Secretary of State Office and open meeting law, and any entity of the town has to, it's an entity of the town. Even like this committee, the road committee would have to comply with the open meeting law, and with notifications and potentially being hybrid now with maybe a requirement for meetings in Vermont. I don't know.
So you said it's the Secretary of State that has the information about that?
I think the Secretary of State's office has that information. Yeah, it's online. The fines for not doing it are very low. You have to go complain to the Attorney General if you want to comply with it. It's all specified there. But I can't recite it from memory. I do acquainted. Little
No, it's okay.
flags go up sometimes, but and I'm not a lawyer.
I guess that's what we've got to do because it's too late to do anything else.
Yeah, the budget was presented to the board, and we went through when we were doing all the rest of our budget work.
Clarification?
Harley?
The budget that was presented to you is for the staff salaries. I believe the budget that Sue's referring to is the library operational expenses.
I'm referring to the one that was going to be discussed in the January meeting that was never discussed in the January meeting.
Which is the library operational budget.
Okay.
And October meeting, I believe.
guess I don't have it.
anymore.
Was it ever
The,
voted on?
the staff salaries were the only ones that we dealt with.
Then the minutes are all wrong, and because it was going to be discussed in January, the budget would be discussed in January, and it wasn't discussed in January.
I believe Sue's correct about that.
We just got the numbers that we went through with Julie, and
Yeah, that was for the staff.
that was
salaries.
all it was.
Yes, I mean, I haven't seen the other library budget. I'm assuming that Deb has it to put into the.
I don't, is Julie still on?
Is Julie still on? Julie, do
Julie?
you have the library budget?
I do have the library budget.
Okay.
I had a library budget that was sent to me by Harley in an email. I don't have it in front of me. I can't tell you anything about it, but I have a budget presented to me by a member of the library board.
And that'll go in the
It
town.
was not discussed at any select board meeting.
Or library board meeting?
I haven't attended all of the meetings. I did watch the meeting in January, and I don't recall a vote on the budget at that meeting.
There wasn't one. There wasn't one. Okay. Can I ask Julie a question?
Huh? Julie?
Julie, when did you receive the library budget? Give or take.
Very recently, like within a week or two.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you haven't seen it either? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Does anybody else have anything for public comment? Okay. We need to go into executive session to discuss confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing legal services to the body. Bob made that motion. Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.